Hallo liebe Freunde und Zuschauer und willkommen zurück bei German for English Speakers. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the next part of the chapter on pronouns in my book, and this part is all about possessive pronouns. And one thing I'll say right off the bat is possessive pronouns are very logical and quite simple to use in German, though they can be tedious because of the endings that they have to take based on the gender and the case. But let's face it, this is German. Normally, we're always putting endings on things for gender and case, so this is no different than anything else that we've done. So I would say that these are not difficult to use, though they might be tedious. What does become difficult is when people, for example, some German teachers and some textbooks, naming no names, conflate two separate pieces of grammar and call them the same thing. This is not helpful. This is not helpful at all, because these two separate pieces of grammar that they give the same name to causes lots of confusion and frustration for students of German. And that's the first thing that I'm going to be talking about in the video today, before we even get on to looking at possessive pronouns and how to use them in German. So let's jump right in and start with that, making sure we understand the difference between these two pieces of grammar and then focusing in on possessive pronouns. Let's go. Okay, so here we are. We're going to be looking at possessive pronouns as mentioned in the introduction. Let's start off with an English sentence that has several possessive pronouns in it. Let's turn this black so we can see it. It won't turn black. Let's try that again. Turn black, please. Okay, good. My dog is perfectly well trained, but have you seen hers? Hers is crazy. If she found a good trainer, it could be like mine or yours. Okay, so if we have some idea of the name possessive pronoun, what is that telling us? Well, possessive means that there's some ownership, something belongs to someone. So this pronoun is going to mark a relationship of ownership. And a pronoun is a thing that stands in place of a noun, so something that replaces a noun. So see if you can work this out from the English sentence. There are a couple of possessive pronouns in this example. Actually, it's 3 sentences, I should say. Let's read it again and see if you can spot them. My dog is perfectly well trained, but have you seen hers? Hers is crazy. If she found a good trainer, it could be like mine or yours. So you may have spotted them now. Let's work in reverse, chopping and changing the colors. 1 second. Let me. I have forgotten how to highlight words. Yes, okay, there we go. Yours. Let's turn that yellow. Let's do the same thing with mine. Sorry this takes so long on a Mac. It's so much fighting to get it to do what you want to do. Here's hers. Actually, we have hers twice. Let's turn both of them yellow. I don't think I'm going to highlight things after this because this is taking way too long just to highlight something. Okay, right. Now, you may well ask, what about this word my? Is this a possessive pronoun? And the answer is no. The word my is not a possessive pronoun. Once again, it's not a possessive pronoun. This is really important. Like I said in the intro, some teachers conflate two separate grammar points in German. And actually, I've seen people doing this in different languages. Recently, I was learning some grammar points about Swedish on YouTube, And I found Swedish teachers also doing the same thing that I'm talking about that I've discovered from English teachers, German teachers. For some reason, it does seem to be the Germanic languages, we end up calling possessive adjectives and possessive pronouns the same thing. But they're not. They're not the same thing at all. And if you mix them up, it sounds wrong. Let me give you some examples in English, right? If I said, that is mein father, that's wrong, isn't it? Because that word mine works as a possessive pronoun. It's not a possessive adjective. A possessive adjective is a word that comes in front of a noun. Look here. My dog. The word my tells us, it describes the word dog. It describes the relationship, the ownership of that noun. My dog, the dog belongs to me. So the word my is an adjective. It comes in front of a noun. I think I have written that actually down here. Yes. Let's have a look. Possessive adjectives. They come in front of nouns to show the ownership. My money, her tablets, our TV. So, for example, if we said ours TV is broken, that's clearly wrong, right? Because it should be our, not ours. Because ours is a possessive pronoun. And a possessive pronoun, the ones that we've marked in yellow above, they replace nouns altogether. They work on their own. Look at this word hers. There's no noun after it. Look at it again in the next sentence. Hers is crazy. There's no noun after it. This word hers is the noun. It's the pronoun. It's replacing another noun. And what is it replacing? Well, let's look. Hers tells us that something belongs to this woman. We don't know who she is. But what belongs to this woman? What does this word hers mean in this sentence? Well, we know from the first sentence that it must be a dog. We're talking about her dog. And we use this pronoun so that we don't have to keep saying the word dog. Imagine we did. My dog is perfectly well trained, but have you seen her dog? Her dog is crazy. If she found a good trainer, it could be like my dog or your dog. Actually, we can avoid repeating the word dog so many times by using a possessive pronoun. And this is what we do. We do this in everyday English and everyday German so that we don't end up repeating the same nouns over and over again. But if you listen to some textbooks and some German teachers, you may get very confused between what is a possessive adjective and what is a possessive pronoun, because for some reason, some people call these two things possessive pronouns. And possessive adjectives are not possessive pronouns. Possessive adjectives come in front of a noun. Possessive pronouns work on their own. Okay? So, what can we type about possessive pronouns here then? They don't come in front of nouns. They replace nouns. I think that's fair. So they work on their own. They work as a noun. And of course, if we wanted some examples of them, you have like in English, you would have like mine, yours, his, hers, ours, and so on. Okay. It's as well. Did I leave any out? Theirs, etc. So why am I being so grumpy and strict about this? I'm being so grumpy and strict about this because if we manage to keep the idea of what is a possessive pronoun and what is a possessive adjective separate in our head, it will make the process of learning German and using German correctly much, much easier. Because right at the start of the video, I said that possessive pronouns follow perfectly logical rules in German. But I see students time and time again making mistakes with their possessive adjectives and their possessive pronouns because they have conflated the two things in their mind. And the problem is in German, when you conflate these two things, you make mistakes. There are different endings for possessive adjectives than there are for possessive pronouns, and vice versa. That means you can end up using the wrong ending for the wrong word because you think it's the same thing. So let's create a little box in our mind called possessive pronouns, and then let's put a separator in there so that we have possessive pronouns on one side and possessive adjectives on the other. In today's video, I'm only going to be focusing on possessive pronouns, so the things that replace a noun. Later, when I go through the other chapters of my book, I'm going to talk about possessive adjectives when we get to the chapter on adjectives, because that's what they are. They're adjectives, those ones that come in front of nouns. Okay, with that being said, and hopefully I didn't sound too grumpy when I was talking about it, let's take a look at these words in German. Here they come. Okay, right. Let me pop that down there. Yes. Okay. Mine stands in place of mine, yours, his, hers, its, ours, yours, theirs, and yours. Okay, so this word, mine, is the same as the English word. Of course, you should bear in mind that we're going to have to put different endings on them depending on the case and the gender of the thing that we're replacing. Dein is yours, sein is his, ihr is hers, sein is its, unser is ours, ihr is yours, ihr is theirs, and eure is yours. Now, this is the point where you might say, Reuben, I recognize these words. Are they not the same as the possessive adjectives? And I would say, yes, this is part of where the confusion comes in. The base, what I call the base, just these words as they are without any special endings, the base form of these words can be possessive pronouns or possessive adjectives. But the endings that we put on them are different depending on their function. So here are the endings for possessive pronouns. So when we use them instead of repeating the noun, that TV is broken. Luckily, ours still works. We replace the word TV in that sentence with the pronoun ours, the possessive pronoun. You can only use these possessive pronouns to replace things that are in the nominative, the accusative, or the dative. And the good news is that if you have already learned the definite article chart, der, die, das, die, den, die, das, die, dem, der, and genitive would be des, der, but we don't actually need genitive for this. If you've already learned those articles, then you already know all the endings for the possessive pronouns, because the endings are the same as the endings on the word for der, die, das, die. Have a look here. Der, er, feminine, neuter. This would be es, but das already ends in an s. That's our ending, but you would put an e in to help. And they're all there. Im and so on. They're all there. So let's get a German example going first. What did I say? This TV is broken. But oh yeah, okay. So der Fernseher ist kaputt. Anyone remember what I said in English? Was it that TV? The TV is broken. Glücklicherweise, glücklicherweise funktioniert. What did I say in English? Luckily, ours funktioniert. Isn't that what I said? Unsere. Okay. So, what's going on here? This is our possessive pronoun, ours, O-U-R-S in English, ours. The TV is broken. TV is masculine, and I want to say ours is still working, okay? So in this sentence, this is the nominative. Even though the word order is a little, actually, it's not that unusual, right? Because in English, we might start the sentence with luckily as well. Luckily, ours works. So what have I done? I've taken the word unser and I have put the masculine nominative ending on the end. Unsere. You may notice that a little E is missing from the middle. I have chopped it out. For unser and euer, the little E before the R gets dropped whenever we add one of these endings. For all the other words, there are no other changes, so no changes to the rest of them. Just unser and euer, that little E gets dropped. And why does it get dropped? Well, let's put it back in and try to pronounce this. Unsere. Unsere. Some Germans do say this, but it's much more common to hear unsere. Unsere. It's easier to say. It's a little shortcut. Of course, if I was saying, luckily, mine works, then it would be, sorry, it would be meine. Meine. Again, the masculine nominative is being replaced. One thing that I should say about possessive pronouns is they can only work for non-people. Non-people. What do I mean by non-people? What I mean by that are basically things, either concrete things or abstract things. So a concrete thing would be something that you can touch or feel or hold, a table, a flask, a window, a building. Those are real physical things, but also it's more obscure things. So things that you can't hold and touch, like a thought or a feeling or so on. And also animals. Okay, so just like we had in our example sentence, hers, what was it? Hers is crazy, right? We were using that word to replace the word dog in English. So her dog, hers is crazy, and we can do this for other things. So let's also type that in German while we're here. Ihre ist verrückt. Ihre ist verrückt. So a dog is a non-person. Animals, concrete things, abstract things, all can be replaced by possessive pronouns. You cannot replace people with possessive pronouns. And let me show you why. Because it it just doesn't work. You will understand why it doesn't work once I give you an English example, because it just sounds wrong. So, like, that father is mine. This wife is yours? Yeah, so do you see how this doesn't really work? You can't use possessive pronouns for people, only for non-people, because you would never say, that wife is yours. You would say, that's your wife. You would always use a possessive adjective when talking about people. So yeah, just bear that in mind as a bit of a rule. So if we're using possessive pronouns, you can only replace physical things or abstract ideas or animals, but not people. Not I can't give you examples. The grandmother is theirs. It's weird, right? I don't know how to explain this exactly because grammatically, there's nothing wrong with the sentence. It's wrong, isn't it? You will never find yourself in a situation where there's a room full of grandmothers and you point one out and says, this grandmother is theirs. You would always say, this is their grandmother. So, yes, let's keep that little rule sort of cemented into the idea of possessive pronouns. You don't use them for people, only for non people, things and animals. Okay, with all this madness in mind, I'm going to show you the endings again. Let's start by looking at the possessive pronouns once again, and then the endings. And then we're going to do two very simple grammar activities to practice. Okay, so remember, mine is mine in English, dein, yours, sein, his, ihr, hers, sein, its, unser, ours. And remember, this one, we usually drop the E here when we put an ending on it. Ihr, it's the formal yours. Ihr is the word for theirs. Euer is the word for yours, as in all you guys, the informal you. And remember, with this one as well, just like unser, we usually drop the second E when we put an ending on it. And let's take a look at our endings again. So we will definitely need these for the two activities that we're going to do. So remember, the endings are going to be the same as the endings of the definite articles. Except for das, it's going to need a little E before we put an S on the end. So you can't say meins, it's meines. It has a little E before the S. Let me type that. So it's not meins, that would be incorrect. It's meines. For example, das Pferd ist meines. That horse is mine. That horse is mine. Okay, so you may like to pause the video and note down the endings if you don't already know, if you haven't already memorized the definite article endings, you might like to note them down. We're going to move on to the two grammar activities. They're very simple grammar activities. The first one, what we're going to do is I would like you to tell me the case and gender of the possessive pronouns from the sentences below. I would also like you to highlight, in this case, because it's on my screen, you can't really highlight it, but you can make a note of the noun that's being referred to. So let's take this first one as an example. Sie hat dein Handy, aber sie hat meins verloren. You're going to look at this word and immediately shout at me and say, hang on a minute, Ruben, didn't you tell me I need to put an E in there? Shouldn't it be minus? Sie hat meines verloren. And yeah, it should. It should have a little E in there. Why did I tell you that there should be a little E in there? Because that's what the textbooks tell us. The German grammar books tell us to put a little E in there. So the sentence would be, aber sie hat meines verloren. But when you hear Germans speaking everyday German, they won't say meines, they'll say meins. Sie hat meins verloren. Sie hat meins verloren. So, so if you want to speak proper German, you should put the little E in. And certainly, if you're going to take any tests or anything that to prove your level of German, probably pop the little E in because it's correct. It's textbook correct, but everyday unusual. So, yes. That's why there's no little E here. Anyway, what do we want to do? We want to first of all find the case of this. So we look at the second part of the sentence where the word minus is, And we see that in this sentence, there's a nominative. So she is doing the losing of mine. So this is accusative, and this is accusative, and it's replacing a noun of what gender? Well, handy is neuter. So we can mark these two things down. We have accusative and neuter. And what is the noun that it's replacing? Well, of course, it was handy. Handy, which I will underline here. Okay, so as an example, what we've done is we've looked at the possessive pronoun. We have marked down its case and its gender and the noun that it's replacing. I want you to do that for the rest of these. And let me just read them for you quickly. And I will translate them into English and then give you a chance to pause the video before I reveal the answers. So the sentences are: Das Haus ist groß, aber ihres ist noch größer. The house is big, but hers is even bigger. Ich mag seinen Stil, aber deinen finde ich besser. I like his style, but I think yours is better. Meine Mutter geht es gut. Wie geht es deiner? My mom is doing well. How is yours? Ihre Kinder sind süß, aber unsere sind wilder. Her, or possibly formal you, or theirs, we don't know the context. So their children are sweet, but ours are wilder, more wild. Ich nehme deinen Stift, weil meiner kaputt ist. I'm taking your pen because mine is broken. Unser Auto ist alt, aber eures ist neu. Our car is old, but yours is new. Ich habe mit seinem Bruder gesprochen, aber nicht mit deinem. I spoke to his brother, but not to yours. Mein Kuchen ist lecker. Probieren Sie mal Ihren. My cake is delicious. Try yours. Ich sehe Ihre Katze, aber wo ist meine? I see her cat, but where is mine? Okay, pause the video now, and then I will reveal the answers in 3, 2, 1. Let's take a look here then. So we're starting off with the case. Aber ihres ist noch größer. This is nominative, and it's neuter. It's got that S on the end, and it's replacing the word house. Next one, we have deinen. Well, this is actually the accusative because ich is the nominative. So this is accusative, and it's masculine. It's replacing a masculine noun. The masculine noun it's replacing is Stil, style. Then we have deiner. This one is a little bit of a tricky one. So when we ask someone wie geht's, really what we're asking is wie geht's dir oder wie geht es Ihnen? And if I want to ask how is your mother, I would say wie geht es deiner Mutter? So this is actually dative, right? Dative, and it's feminine, and it's replacing the word Mutter. Which originally I said you can't use to replace people. But in this sentence, it does make sense, right? So it's a general rule of thumb that you don't use it to replace people. But in this sentence, it works, right? So, oh, my mom's doing well. How's yours getting on? Is fine. Just not in the other sentences that we looked at. Rule of thumb. Ihre Kinder sind so süß, aber unsere sind wilder. So what about unsere? Well, in this sentence, that's the nominative in this clause of the sentence, and it is plural. And it's replacing the word Kinder, children. Meine is also nominative in this clause, and it's replacing something that is masculine, and that word is Stift, pen. So you see in the first part of the sentence, the first clause, the word Stift is in the accusative, but then in the second clause, what we're saying is mine, as in my pen, and this then is nominative because it's the thing that's doing the verb here. It's the thing that is broken. Then we have eures. Unser Auto ist alt, aber eures ist neu. So eures in this sentence in this clause is nominative, and it's also replacing something that's neuter, and the word it's replacing is Auto. Okay, good. Deinem is dative because of the word mit. Mit is one of the dative prepositions. Aus außer bei mit, nach Zeit, von zu, gegenüber are dative pronouns. And the word that it's replacing is masculine. And that word is Bruder. Bruder. Okay, gut. Dann mal Kuchen, ihren. So this is actually the formal you. My cake is delicious. Formal you. You, sir, try your cake. The formal you. And here, this is accusative because the nominative is here and it's in the command form. Try yours. I'm telling you to do something. I'm giving you a command. So this is the nominative, and that would be accusative, and it's replacing something that's masculine. Okay, and the word itself that's being replaced is Kuchen. Ich sehe Ihre Katze, aber wo ist meine? Well, meine in this sentence is nominative, it's feminine, and it's replacing the word Katze. Okay, good. So the point of this activity, if you weren't able to spot it, is for us to be able to recognize possessive pronouns and to recognize what their function is in the sentence. What's their case? What's their gender? What are they replacing? Let's take this a step further with the second exercise, and instead of me revealing the words to you in the sentences, I want you to replace the highlighted or emboldened noun with a possessive pronoun. So I think we'll actually do the first one as an example again together. So, sie liebt ihren Hund. What I want to do is to say she loves hers. So I want to replace ihren Hund with the word hers, but of course in German, not in English. So sie liebt. So what would I do? I would think, well, what is the base? The base word that I'm looking for is ihr, and then it's dog. Dog is masculine, and in this sentence, it's going to be in the accusative. So I know the masculine accusative ending is en, and that's it. Sie liebt ihren. She loves hers. That's it. That's all we're doing. So we're looking at the sentence above, looking at the case and the gender of the word, and filling in the blanks with the correct possessive pronoun. Let me read the other ones for you now and translate them before you get started. Okay, so das ist mein Buch. That's my book. Ich finde deine Idee gut. I find your idea good. I think your idea is good. Wir besuchen unsere Großeltern. We're visiting our grandparents. This one is a little bit odd. You shouldn't really be replacing people with this. Ihr habt eure Auto gewaschen. You washed your car. Ich mag seine Jacke nicht. I don't like his jacket. Sie kennt meine Schwester gut. She knows my sister well. Ist das euer Pferd? Is that your horse? Wir haben ihre Kinder gesehen. We saw your children. We've seen your children. Ich habe deinen Stuhl genommen. I took your chair. Okay, so now you might like to pause the video and fill in the blanks with the correct possessive pronoun. I'm going to reveal the answers in 3, 2, 1. Los geht's. So, that's my book, and I want to say that's mine. Then I would say das ist meins. Or, if we want to use proper Goethe's German, the Queen's German, then we'd say this is meines. Okay? Ich finde deine Idee gut. I think your idea is good. Ich finde deine gut. Ich finde deine gut. Wir besuchen unsere Großeltern. Wir besuchen, so grandparents, plural, and in this case accusative, so unsere, or unsere, oder unsere. Unsere. We're visiting ours. So, yeah, I know I told you that you don't replace people. You really shouldn't, but there are some areas where you can find some examples where it doesn't sound so weird, right? So, like, if these people, if you were talking to someone and said, "Oh, I'm going to visit my grandparents this week," you might say, "Oh, that's funny. I'm going to visit mine as well." In that case, you can get away with it. But as a general rule of thumb, we don't use these words to replace people. As a general rule of thumb, most of the time, 80, 90% of the time, we never use them to replace people. Ihr habt euer Auto gewaschen. You washed your car. So, we want to get the base, which is euer, and we're probably going to drop this little e and then put on our ending, eures. Ihr habt eures gewaschen. Of course, some people will leave the e in, and you will have eures. It depends. Leaving the e in is fine, but you'll find that German speakers usually drop that second e just because it makes it a little bit easier to say. So compare eures with eures. Eures is much easier to say. The little e sort of gets swallowed. Ich mag seine Jacke nicht. I don't like his. So we know the base is sein, and it's feminine, and it's accusative, so we put an e on the end. Sie kennt meine Schwester gut. Mine is the base, it's feminine, it's accusative, e. So this is why people get confused. People mix up possessive adjectives and possessive pronouns, not only because some people conflate the two things as one, but also because it's very tempting to think, hang on a minute, these are the same. The word seine Jacke and then just seine on its own, or meine Schwester and then just meine on its own, they're the same. They have the same endings. But this is not the case always. In fact, there are many more times when the ending is different. So don't get tricked into thinking they're the same thing. Is that yours? Is that your horse? Yours. And it's going to be, let's take euer as our base again, and Pferd is neuter, and in this sentence it's nominative, so we're going to add our es. So we're going to have eures oder eures. Eures oder eures. Wir haben ihre Kinder gesehen. We saw their, or her, possibly, depending on context, her children. So we want to say hers or theirs. And in German, that would be the same word anyway. So we start off with our base, ihr, and then we think, okay, Kinder is plural. And in this case, it's accusative. So we stick an e on the end. Ihre. Wir haben ihre gesehen. And then we come to our last one. Ich habe deinen Stuhl genommen. Before I reveal the answer, please do like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so that we can reach more learners of German. Yes, so here we go. We're going to take dein as our base. Stuhl is masculine. And in this sentence, it's accusative. So we're going to put our en ending on it. And we get, ich habe deinen genommen. I took yours. If you found today's video helpful, though you may feel that you have some questions that you're not sure about, please do type them down in the comments and I'll do my best to get back to everybody who has a query about possessive pronouns, or if you're having some problems because you've already started conflating them with possessive adjectives. Feel free to write something down in the comments and I'll get back to you to try to give you some help. That's everything for today. Also dann, ich wünsche euch einen sehr schönen Tag und wir sehen uns nächstes Mal. Bis dann. Tschüss. Bis zum nächsten Mal.